And we're immensely grateful for that
Oh,
lot.
you're immensely grateful?
Yes.
Hey guys, Season 3, Episode 5, Review and Easter Eggs. This episode, called It's a Matt World, was another good one. I love Matt's character, and just like the shoutouts I gave to Carrie Coon, Justin Thoreau, and Kevin Carroll in our earlier reviews, I want to give a quick shout out to Christopher Eccleston and Amy Brenneman because they are also killing it every single episode, and their dynamic in this one was really cool since they represent the age-old battle between faith and science.
That couple just asked me and John to be part of the four-way.
So with the help of the wizards over on the Leftover subreddit, we came up with a top 50 for this episode related to 3 things: answers to questions from prior episodes, callbacks to those episodes, and some fun new stuff. We'll close out the video by going over a handful of new questions, so let's get started. We've got 2 answers from prior episodes. Number 1, we figured out who caused the nuclear explosion that was mentioned twice in episode 4 in the episode's opening scene, which felt like watching a ballet, a naked ballet. And we also got confirmation that Matt's nosebleed from episode 2 was due to the return of leukemia, not from being in a fight. Now let's take a look at all the callbacks to prior episodes and the fun new stuff. So instead of an intro song, the show's intro was scored by the beeping of a submarine, and the bomber sang a prayer in French. I'll throw the English translation, courtesy of Entertainment Weekly, into the video description in case you're curious. The bomber's name appears to be P. Lion, which was a play on Fraser the Lion. And the dudes who covered their ears at the blasting music reminded me of all the characters, like Matt, who are only listening to their own ideas at this point. The bomber's nakedness reminds me of the way Kevin appears at the hotel, and shooting a nuclear weapon is not something that should be done alone, which is why there are 2 keys. The dude found a way to do it by himself, and it negatively impacted people all over the world. This is symbolic of Matt telling lies and doing things on his own. Hopefully Matt, and even Nora, begin to open their minds and their hearts to their friends and family. They live in a crazy world, but they need to remember that they don't have to face it alone. People like John, Michael, and Laurie are there for them. Matt sells his buddy on the idea of flying to Australia by calling it a rescue mission, in reference to Kevin. But as we know, several characters right now need some rescuing, and the $20,000 in cash that he gave to him is the same amount that the physicist charged to use the supposed departure device. ACN is a fictional news organization from the HBO show Newsroom, and Matt calls John, Michael, and himself the 3 wise men, which is an obvious biblical reference. We got 2 references to whistles in this episode, which tie back to the whistles that the Guilty Remnant used in earlier seasons, as well as the dog whistle that Dean used earlier in this season. Laurie refuses to see Kevin as anything besides an ordinary human, since they were married 15 years, and this parallels Matt's views of Burton at the end of the episode.
Because I absolutely refuse to believe he's psychotic.
I was married to Kevin for 15 years, so I refuse, Matt, to believe that he's the goddamn second coming of Christ.
And as she yells Jesus, the plane hits a pocket of turbulence, which makes Matt smile. I'm sure he chalked that one up to God. Matt reads some of the Book of Daniel, which foreshadows the lion, and in Tasmania, Matt only orders 3 tickets. He ignored Laurie, what a douche, the one female in the group. And this is similar to his tunnel vision with respect to the rescue mission. He's headed there to rescue Kevin, and hasn't even considered his sister, Nora, in any way. The lion girl asks Matt the secret question about 91 and having a son, and this is tinfoily, but the way John leans over his shoulder and says, "I think she wants you to say something," made it seem like he was one of Matt's delusions, because he says it as if only Matt can hear him. More than likely though, John was just being funny. Laurie gives the opening to a dirty panda joke, so pause the video if you want to read that, because I'm not going to say it. And shortly after, we see one of Fraser's descendants. This is cool. Turns out Fraser the Lion is based on a true story in real life. And it happened in the early 70s, which is the same time as the National Geographic magazine that the show has referenced a few times in prior episodes. Matt comments that Miracle is special because it gave him his wife and son. She recovered and became fertile. But John counters that he lost his wife and his daughter there. If I had to guess, I'm with John. It seems like they are going to experience the 7th year reunion of the departure from down under. John then gives Matt a truth bomb, saying that if Matt had given some control to Mary, she may not have left. Whoa, dude. This reminded me of the callous line that Tom gave to Nora in episode 2, but Matt responded with anger, whereas Nora responded with pain, reminding us that we're all different and we handle things differently. An employee from the ship asked Matt if God punched him in the face. He was using the term God in reference to Burton, but assuming that Burton is not actually God, that question is symbolic of God giving Matt leukemia as a child and again as an adult. We see yet another no smoking sign. These pop up constantly, in every episode, as well as exit signs. When Matt gets to the top deck, we see Burton read Louis Amour's Lonely on the Mountain, which is a Western story about a family's journey to save a family member. Sound familiar? Then we finally meet Burton, but it's not the first time. We heard about him and his resurrection story in the background of 2 episodes at the beginning of Season 2. Then we saw him on the bridge in Season 2 Episode 8, the International Assassin episode. Then we see him again in the Season 2 finale during the karaoke scene.
Yes. Now tell me how.
I already did.
Excuse me?
If you want to get out of here, all you have to do is sing.
He answered Matt's question with a pre-made frequently asked questions card, which is a shout out to the Guilty Remnant who used to write down their answers instead of speaking them out loud. And the cult rave party was the second time we saw nudity on a boat in this episode. They tried to get Matt to spread his seed, if you know what I mean, just like Frasier and his descendants do, and figuratively speaking, what Matt does on a daily basis in regards to religion. And after we see Burton throw the dude overboard, he looks up, almost like he's looking up to God. Matt jumps overboard to try to save the dude that Burton murdered. Off screen, they rescue Matt. He makes two ironic statements to the captain. First, he claims not to be one of the lunatics, but let's be real, it's all relative. Laurie seems to think Matt's a little bit nuts. And he's pissed that Burton claims to have gone from sports announcer to Yahweh or God, but Matt's new religion is based off of Kevin, who went from being a cop to the second coming of Jesus. It's not that different. We find out Burton spends most of his time in Tasmania, and some fans are wondering if he is the devil, which I'm sure is a play on the Tasmanian devil. No one believes Matt when he says that Burton threw someone overboard, including John, which is a callback to Season 2, Episode 5, when John didn't believe that Mary woke up when they got to Jordan, and as a result, he didn't get Matt and Mary wristbands to re-enter the community. Michael comments that Matthew, John, and Michael are disciples, but maybe Laurie is too. So let's not be surprised if she transitions into a believer over the final 3 episodes. The drums and dancing at the party were called back to the Australian Aboriginals from Episode 3, and I'm really late to the train on this one, but I'll throw it out there anyway since it just clicked. Evie, whose full name is Evangeline, is part angel. Matt threw Burton's book overboard an episode after Kevin burnt Matt's book. We get 2 more ironic statements from Matt as he mocks Burton with insults that have probably been thrown his way many times over the years. Then, as Burton denies paternity to Jesus, there's cross imagery in the background. And the lion growled both times Matt got loud, which is evidence of him becoming the lions since he said his name after midnight. This entire scene is reminiscent of his sister Nora's scene with Mark Lynn Baker, and that Nora and Matt both juggled with doubt and belief. And the episode unfortunately ends with the death of not only the murderer Burton, but also the huge, beautiful lion Frasier, who we hear gets shot off screen. So we leave this episode with a lot of questions. 91 and having a son might be a reference to Sarah from the Old Testament. Sarah apparently had a child at 91 years old, so this could be further evidence that Nora's pregnant. Is Burton God? Or is he the devil? Unlike Kevin, Burton seems to embrace the fact that he came back from the dead, whereas Kevin tries as hard as he can to forget it. I don't think we will ever find out whether Burton is the god or the devil, but it's interesting to note that he seemed a lot more comfortable than Kevin at the karaoke scene. And here's some tinfoil. If we see him again, fans are going to go nuts, right? But he mentioned Jesus having an identical twin brother. So if we see him again, let's be cautious about calling him God. I feel like the producers might be trying to trick us with this one. Speaking of deception, Redditor Jenkinator noticed a cool play on words. Lion, lion. And arguably the biggest question that we take away from this episode is whether Matt truly lost faith. And if he did he lose faith in God or did he lose faith in Kevin? And it will be interesting to see if this is the completion of his character arc, or if he will refine faith in some way before the dust settles. A Matt without faith just doesn't feel right. But the silver lining is that at least now, he may be more open to listening to the opinions of others, or calling his sister. Nora's by herself right now and at risk of getting blasted by radiation, so he should really check in with her, she needs him. On the opposite side of the coin from Matt is the pragmatic Laurie. As I mentioned earlier, it will be interesting to see if Laurie goes the opposite direction. If she witnesses Kevin die and then come back to life, it's going to blow her mind. I'm excited to see how her character evolves over the last 3 episodes. And I'm also curious to know more about these 3 people because it seemed like they knew the future. They knew that Burton would run towards them, which is why they were prepared to release the lion. And last but not least, if Kevin dies in the next episode, will him and Burton meet each other in the hotel? That'd be really cool. Alright guys, let me know what you think. I'm pretty pumped for the next handful of Game of Thrones videos that we'll be working on, but I also want to do a leftovers fan theories video at some point if I can find the time. At this stage, I think that the old Nora is the Nora we know. I don't think she used the device, and I bet that Kevin is actually with her. They probably both changed their names and went into hiding to avoid being harassed day in and day out by people who look at them as godlike figures. Thank you as always to the patrons that are helping to keep this channel going. Words cannot express how appreciative I am for your support. I'll keep trying to do my best for y'all, but that's it for this one. This is Kev. Have a great day, guys.